I'm all right. How about y'all?
Good. Would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and your DOC number.
Yes, ma'am. My name's Tullis McCormick, and my DOC number is 562917.
And you're here for a revocation decision today, this morning. Do you have your pro-revocation questionnaire there with you?
I got my paperwork's in the dorm. I was kind of in a hurry when I come out, and I forgot.
Okay, let's ask some questions. Let me ask you some questions.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm looking at that questionnaire which you signed on November 1st, but I'm going to just repeat for the record those questions.
Yes, ma'am.
You treated for mental illness in the past 5 years, or are you currently taking medication for a mental disorder?
I take medication for ADHD. I take medication for mood stabilizing, and that's about it. I when I was on the streets, I checked myself in Brentwood for a week, because I was going through a little something, but as far as that goes, I don't really have no mental problems. But
okay, all right. Well, can you read and write?
Yes, ma'am, I can.
You understand the allegations against you?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Right? Let's see. You want to speak on your own behalf?
Yes, ma'am, if you don't mind.
Okay, and this says, the question was, what is your average monthly income? You answered none.
Yes, ma'am, because at the time when I come to jail.
I just need to know yes or no.
Oh,
do
yes.
you own property?
Ma'am?
Own any property?
No, ma'am.
So I will read the allegations against you. You're ready to proceed, I'm assuming this morning, based on you're not eligible for an appointed counsel. So are you ready to proceed?
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm going to read the allegations against you, and you'll enter a plea of guilty or not guilty, and then we'll have a conversation about your plea.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're accused of violating the conditions of your parole, specifically condition number 4. You were arrested July 21st, 2021 on a warrant for domestic abuse battery. On September 22nd, 2022, you pled guilty to the amended charges of disturbing the peace by loud and profane language and criminal mischief. You were sentenced to 15 days in the parish jail for disturbing the peace and 6 months in the jail for criminal mischief. So how do you plead to violate condition number 4?
Well, I would say I'm guilty, but
All right. Well, you can say guilty or not guilty, guilty with a statement, not guilty with a statement. And then we'll talk about after we go through the charges.
Yes, ma'am. I say guilty.
And with a statement.
I could say a statement.
No, we're going to ask you for your statement in a minute, but I'm going to make a note that you want to make a statement.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, here's another condition number 4. You tested positive for methamphetamine upon your arrest.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that's guilty. And then finally, condition number 10, you're $756 in arrears towards your supervision fees. You never have made a payment. How do you?
Not guilty on that one.
Okay, your case has been assigned to Mrs. Jackson. Would you answer her question?
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right. How are you doing this morning?
I'm all right, ma'am.
All right. You have been detained since July of 2021. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. I've been incarcerated for almost 17 months.
Right, and that was because you wanted to have charges disposed of in court before you had your revocation hearing. You wanted to defer until after the court. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
And you did go to court and you pled guilty to the new misdemeanor charges that Ms. Renatza outlined, the criminal mischief and the disturbing of peace. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
And after that, you had your preliminary hearing on November 21st of this year, and probable cause was found. So tell us what's your version of events as far as the domestic violence arrest?
Yes, ma'am. I was at my dad's house, which is where I paroled out to, the address I live at, which is B401 Chickamauga. And I have a neighbor that lives through a trail through the woods. She's a woman, and she lives with her old man there, and they always fight and arguing. Well, she'll sometimes come over to the house, when she needs to get away from him. So I hadn't seen her on this day that this was supposed to happen. I hadn't seen her within probably a week and a half, 2 weeks prior, And she shows up in my yard, in my daddy's yard with some dude, and they was in a red Ford Ranger and had all her stuff packed and asked me if she could move in. And I was like, no, you can't move in. When she started getting all mad and stuff, and that's when I told her, I don't want to cuss. I told her to get the F out of here, And when she jumped back in the truck to leave, she told me, well, you going to jail, And I was like, all right, whatever, Well, she called the cops and wrote a statement on me, made up this lie on me and everything. And if you read the statements that they wrote on me, you can tell that they made a story up, because one of them saying I choked her the night prior, and the other one saying I choked her right there that day. They don't even match up. But the reason I deferred my hearing is because I didn't want my parole to get revoked for something I'm not guilty of. I've been in trouble multiple times, and anytime I've come to jail and I was guilty of it, I took a plea and got out their way. But this time here, I didn't take no plea, and I was willing to sit in here and fight it because I know I'm not guilty of it.
I did take a plea for criminal mischief and disturbing the peace. So you
Yes,
did
ma'am.
take a plea.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
Okay, so what was your relationship with this woman?
I would say friends. I get.
She ever your girlfriend?
No, ma'am. Never my girlfriend.
Ever?
No, ma'am.
Well, I'm at a loss. Did you ever date her?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. We never did.
I'm at a loss for how you could have been arrested for domestic abuse battery if you weren't in a domestic relationship with the complainant in this case.
Yes, ma'am. I actually have paperwork in the dorm where the judge ruled no probable cause. March the 3rd, Judge Beasley ruled no probable cause on my case and said I was to be released on this, 8 months ago. He found no probable cause because the fact that I wasn't with her, we wasn't in a relationship, and that she didn't live with me, so I should have never been charged with domestic. And I have the paperwork in there I can show y'all. He ruled no probable cause on this 8 months ago and told him to release me 8 months ago on it, but they never did. They ended up making me plea out to a lesser charge, Yes, ma'am. If y'all would like, I could go get the paperwork.
That won't be necessary.
Yes, ma'am.
The testimony at the preliminary hearing was that Miss Little, is that her name, Little?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Victoria Lyda.
All right, said that she was packing up her things, and you pushed her, and she fell and cut her hand on a mirror. She walked out of the residence carrying some of her belongings. So, why would her belongings be in your place for her to be carrying them out?
Her belongings was never in my place, at my daddy's place. They was never there. Her belongings was in that truck when they pulled up in the yard. And I'm sorry if I didn't hear you right, but I didn't, that wasn't my statement right there. That was somebody else.
That was the police officer's testimony.
That's what the woman that put me in jail told the police officer. When they made the story up on me, put me in jail. That's what she told them.
Well, I'll just tell you the thing. Why would somebody show up at your house with her stuff packed in a truck, thinking that you would let them move in with you? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Because
say no, then they would make up a story about you. That makes no sense to me. That explanation.
She
doesn't
felt
make
like, yes, ma'am. She felt like I would let her move in because every time they would argue, she would come over there and I would let her stay until things cool off. So I guess she felt comfortable and like I would let her move in, and get away from all that. And I'm pretty sure the reason that she wrote the statement and lied on me is because the man she lived with was using it over her head and said if she didn't put me in jail, you know what I'm saying, that her and her 7-year-old daughter would get kicked out because that's the only place they had to go. I'm not sure, but I'm almost positive that's what happened.
Why would he want you in jail?
Because me and him don't get along. My dad don't like him, and me and him don't get along. We've had arguments in the past.
Well, let's talk about you testing positive for meth.
Yes,
About
ma'am.
that.
I admit guilt to that. I'm guilty of that. I had a drug problem, when I come to jail.
Well, I was reading the notes from your parole officer, and it looks like they tried really hard to get you some help for your substance abuse issue, and you didn't really follow through on the things they were trying to get you to do to help you.
I finished Cater. I finished that program. I have a certificate at my dad's house.
Yeah, but that was just part of it. You're supposed to go to a halfway house.
Yes, ma'am. I moved in a halfway house and I ended up getting kicked out because I didn't make it back in time for the curfew. I hadn't been there but like a week and a half, so they felt like I wasn't taking it serious. But that was my.
I understand that, but there are multiple instances in his or her note that show that you really weren't following the treatment plan. A lot of times they didn't know your dad hadn't seen you for a while. And it seemed like the parole officer worked really hard, giving you lots of chances to get yourself together, and you just weren't able to do that.
Yes, ma'am, that's true. I was struggling with addiction on and off drugs, I mean, I wasn't reporting, I wasn't paying, I admit to that.
Right.
If a chance to give it again for help though, I wouldn't mess it up, I could tell. I actually asked for help when I come to jail. I asked for him to send me to something, like a 90-day something, a rehab or something, but I never could get.
How about a 9-month something?
9 months? Yeah, I'd be willing to do that. I would be willing to do that. Anything,
Tell me what.
Been in jail for 6 months, I'd still be willing to do a 9-month program to help me better my life.
Why? Why now? Why do you think now you want to?
Ma'am?
What's changed? Why now? Why now?
Because I've sat in jail 17 months and I realized that one way or another, if I'm doing drugs, I'm gonna come to jail. I'm not gonna be able to. If I'm on the drugs, I'm gonna fail a drug test, or if I'm on the drugs, I'm gonna be paranoid, and not want to report because I'm gonna be scared I'm gonna come back to jail, and then I'm gonna get a warrant put out for my arrest. And it's just this is gonna be my life over and over and over again if I don't quit the drugs. In and out of jail, the rest of my life. I realized that.
Were you working at all while you're out?
Yes, ma'am. I had a job building houses, and I ended up losing that job actually behind drugs. And after I lost that job, for a while there, I didn't have a job, But I did when I first came home from doing 4 years and 8 months in prison. I did have a job when I first came home, but I ended up messing up behind drugs,
You did that 4 years and 8 months. Did you have any kind of substance abuse programming or education during that period of time?
Ma'am, I took anger management. I took
Talking about substance abuse. I'm talking about substance abuse.
Yes, ma'am. I took substance abuse classes too. I can't remember the name of it, but it's the one with the risk factors and all that for drugs. I took that. Yes, ma'am.
How long did that program last?
While I was in jail, I think it took I want to say 28 days for it was reentry was the name of it. Yes, ma'am. Reentry. It was a 28-day program. I did it at Cato.
Who's in the room with you?
The staff right here.
Yes, ma'am.
What's your name, sir?
Deputy Laird.
What do you know about Mr. McCommon?
He's been here quite a while, ma'am. Since I started almost. He hasn't been any kind of troublemaker, nothing like that, you know. When we asked for him to do stuff, I mean, he's cooperative. Never had any issues with this man at all.
You had a write-up?
No, ma'am. Not that I'm aware of.
No, I haven't had something.
Yeah.
All right, I'm Mr. Johnson, that's all I have.
Ma'am, is it all right if I make one more statement before y'all vote?
Yeah, I'm asking you now for your statement.
Oh, all right. Sorry. I do have a great job lined up. I have my boss man's number and everything. I was gonna try to get him to be able to do Zoom with y'all, but he's been in my shoes, you know. He did time and he finished his parole and everything. Well, he helps people like me, you know. I have a couple of friends that's working for him right now that just got out. If y'all familiar with the name Joseph Michelle, he just got out and he's working, doing good, you know. And the man that gave him the job has a job waiting on me too when I get out, you know. If that'll help out anything, I will be able to catch up on my fees when I get out. I know I'm $750 in the rear, but I'll be able to catch up within, I'd say, 6 months of being out. I'll be caught up and be, you know, good on those.
All right, good to hear. I think we're prepared to vote, Mrs. Jackson.
All right. Mr. McCommon, you're a seventh offender. You've not done very well on supervision at all. But I do know that you need help for your substance abuse treatment, and you've never had any serious substance abuse treatment. So my vote would be in your revocation, you are to complete a long-term DOC substance abuse program. And then upon completion of that, you return to supervision.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, my vote is the same, with the same condition.
All right, and my vote is the same.
Okay, so
So don't mess up this opportunity. You will be moved to a facility that's a real treatment program.
yes, ma'am. Okay.
Fight, sit on the front row, do what they tell you to do when you get out. And
Yes,
then
ma'am.
after you finish it, once you finish that program, you'll go back to supervision.
Okay, as soon as I finish the program, I get released. Yes, ma'am. Thank y'all very much.
But
Oh, how long will it be before I go to the program?
as soon as there's a bed available, it should be pretty quickly.
What's the name of it, if you don't mind? I'm sorry for so many questions.
DOC chooses it. There's different programs, but DOC will choose the program for you.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Good
Thank you.
luck.
All right.
That concludes our business in Sabine Parish, so we'll adjourn. It is 12:01 on the 15th of December. Thank you.
I got to tell you, I believe him. I believe his story. I believe that he wasn't dating her, and she did just get mad at him. He came off to me as an honest felon. Man, there's nothing like a woman scorned, as they say, because they know how to. They will send you back to prison in the blink of an eye. I kind of liked him. I don't know what it is. Is it just me? I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. But he did come off to me as someone who is genuine. And it was interesting because he seemed like pretty capable of articulating himself. And, you know, just drugs got a hold of him. And he's, you know, if he's the kind of guy, if he could change his people, places, things. And this program hopefully can, you know, if he can, like, get into like an AA group and just create the right habits and patterns, maybe he can get his life on track. I know he's got a crummy record, but really it's, I did feel like I believed what he was saying. And I do think that the outcome was great. He seemed excited about it as well. And hopefully he can build some good habits from this one of those programs. Love to hear your thoughts. Sometimes I just like, it's just like you make a judgment call or an instant call, and you can watch it a second time and have a different opinion. But I'd love to hear what you felt on that.